Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Matthew once again with Watty's channel, and this is a bittersweet episode for me because this is going to be the last video of the my favorite LJN tournament revisited. I always say, doing these tournaments are probably some of the most fun I have on YouTube. Making these videos. It's right there on par with the, specialty videos or shout out videos, however you want to call them. Getting it all the way to the end, it's obviously a great feat, just an awesome accomplishment for me. But the fact that I don't get the opportunity to go further, keep making these videos, I mean, it sucks. So I'm going to give you a follow up to the date. So right now we're looking at Sunday night, October the 16th. And I always like to, when I wrote a letter or when I filmed a video, etc. Because I don't know, it's just one of those things. This video may not be posted until December or even January, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna sit back and like wonder, when this video was filmed because sometimes, especially in this tournament where I had to refilm a few episodes, it's the dates are kind of out of order and whatnot. So, but like many of my videos, I don't like to talk too much at the beginning. I try my best to dive right in to the topic at hand, and if I have anything to say towards the end, obviously bring that up. So before we begin, this semifinals, because of the amount of figures that we had in the last round, we're actually going to have five figures in the semifinals, not four. So who we're looking at left over is from the original line, Big John Stud from Series 1. We're looking at Kamala from Series 4, and I think we're seeing a pattern here. We've got the Big Boss Man from Series 6. From XOX Customs, we've got Sid Vicious. And finally, from Wrestling Rider, we have Bruiser Brody. Now, per usual, the matchups are going to be based off of how they are displayed on my shelf. And that means Series 1 Stud is going to take on Series 4 Kamala. Two of possibly the most perfect figures you will ever find. I don't care if they're originals, customs, if they're part of the Hasbro line, if they're Toy Biz, LJN, it doesn't matter. When you're looking at wrestling action figures, this right here is the epitome. They could talk about movable joints and, articulation and all that junk all they want. With the rubber figures, I could care less about articulation. And when you got like a pose like this, that's really all you need. And of course, when I talked about like Hasbro's, yeah, they're basically stationary figures, but their arms, that to me, if you wanted articulation or movement, that right there is all you needed. But the LJN figures, the sheer mass of the figures, the fact that you never had to worry about them breaking, throw this on the ground all you want. For the most part, you're going to keep these intact, and I think that's why so many people are absolutely in love with these lines of figures, especially when they were part of their childhood. And I honestly regret not ever having these as a kid. When they ended, I was 4 years old, so I never got the opportunity to enjoy wrestling at that point or to have these type of figures. But as an adult, being able to start this up last year and to complete this line and keep it going with new customs, it's been an absolute blast for me. So this right here is an interesting match. I don't want to give any giveaways until after the battle is kaput. So we will start off with the Big John Stud figure. Because this figure was so reminiscent to that of the Galoop Sid Vicious, I immediately gravitated towards this figure like crazy. Big John Studd, obviously knew about him as a kid, so he's one of those guys from the '80s that I knew of. Didn't have a lot of don't have a lot of memories because, like I said, a lot of things that I remember about Big John Studd come from like Coliseum videos or later on in life seeing him on wrestle on YouTube. But at least I could say this is somebody that I remember as a kid, at least at some point. I'm sure I've seen him in a match or two here or there, live, during childhood. The things that I gravitate towards these LJN figures in particular, obviously, arms up is important. Arms up, spread apart, perfect for body slamming poses, but it doesn't end there. You never want a figure that can just simply give you a solid body slam. You also want the figure that can be body slammed themselves. And that's why I love so many of the Series 1 figures. They got the nice legs spread apart, knees bent. This one gives you a much more articulated bending at the knees, calf into the knee. So much more detail, I guess. We'll look at the Kamala figure. You do see that bend in the knee, of course, but it doesn't go as deep. No figure goes as deep as the Big John Studd figure. Absolutely love this figure. I never weighed the Kamala figure. I weighed Andre the Giant. I weighed Big John Studd. Only because I always kind of felt like just holding the figures. I always felt like the Big John Studd figure, it was heavier to me. And sure enough, I put him on a scale. I think he was like, I don't know, a pound, 10 ounces, something like that. I think, Andre is like a pound, 3 ounces, or what have you. Absolutely love this figure. And to see him in the semifinals, it is not a shocker by any means. Going in against him in this battle is going to feature Kamala. Now, Kamala is right there on par with Big John Studd. Basically with every single feature I just described. Everything from arms apart and up to the bending of the knees, legs spread apart, all perfection. Where Kamala does have a little bit of an upgrade. Graphics wise, Big John Studd, he's got, some decent, graphics on the pants. Stars, not exactly, the most articulation or artistic graphics, but I mean, it's something. It's not just plain white pants, so you put something on there. It's gonna, even if it was just a simple like line down the leg, that's something. It adds something to the figure overall. And Kamala, he could be just a bare-chested figure, no paint on the face, no paint on the chest. I mean, with trunks, again, kind of like, instead of having, pants design, if it was trunks or this little skirt that he wears, I don't know. Again, it adds something to the figure. It's not just a plain orange skirt, essentially. But the overall graphics of the figure is truly amazing. Now, when we make our selection here, we're going to have to choose something more than just the graphics. Because based on fighting pose, clearly they're both perfect figures. And you need to find new criteria to make your determination of which one holds more value in your eyes. So, again, when the poses are perfect, you look towards design. Kamala obviously has the design, in spades over Big John Studd. So that definitely gives him a leg up. Because the Sid Vicious figure from Glue was my favorite childhood toy, getting Big John Studd, I mean, I had this figure long before I was able to acquire a Kamala figure. Just having him for that, longer of a time period, being able to just really admire the figure, that obviously gives him added value in my eyes, one that I really covet. So, this is, again, one of literally the most difficult choices in this entire tournament. And I've had these choices where I had to, choose, get rid of a solid figure probably 15 times in this tournament. And, it never gets any easier when you've got two perfect figures. Problem is, this is the very tail end of this tournament. So, there really is an opportunity to push other figures forward and into the next rounds and keep it going with some solid figures. This is pretty much it. Who are we going to go with? And that is the question. I really wish I could be doing this like live or something, because I would love to be seeing the viewers remarks to see who you guys would choose. So as I mentioned, today's Sunday. Pretty much all weekend I've been making videos. Sunday I just made an absolute ton of videos. Came back on Saturday, spent countless hours filming just an absolute ton of videos. Polishing off the fifth round, fourth round. I don't know if I was doing any third rounds on Saturday, but basically completed the rest of it. And then here Sunday night, I'm finishing off the last video, the semifinals/finals. This is a tough one, guys. For the first time ever, Big John Studd is going to lose a tournament match. Now, why is the victory of Kamala such a huge impact for my videos? For anybody that watched my very first tournament back in March, I don't know, I think it ran up until April, so March through April, these were still my semifinalists, so they had the chance to go up against each other once more. Big John Studd was victorious, and he moved on to the finals. Now, obviously, I'm not changing things up because I want this to be a completely different tournament than the first time around. I spent once I went upstairs after filming my last video yesterday, I looked at the figures, I thought about it. I spent a good amount of time today, here and there, thinking about this matchup and how I was going to choose. Gun to the head, who is my favorite? I think I would still go with Big John Studd in the end, regardless. But some of the things that I talked about in the first tournament, the things I've gone over at this tournament, and even when I did my top 10 favorite LJN originals, where I had Studd at number 1, and very surprisingly, I had Kamala at number 4. Even at that point, I was harping on this figure more than any of the other figures. There isn't a wrong answer. Either one of these are a perfect compliment to the other wrestler or wrestlers who's going to end up in the finals. Any one of these figures can potentially win the entire tournament. This sucks that I have to get rid of Big John Studd. And I do want to actually relay how he got here. So I do remember that Big John Studd defeated Hillbilly Jim in round 1. So that means he would have defeated Andre number 1 in round 2. In round 3, he would have defeated the Custom Series 1 Hogan. In round 4, he defeated Andre number 2. And then in round 5, he defeated the Custom Rhythm and Blues Greg Valentine. So he had some very stiff competition for majority of the tournament. I was going to go with him, I think, repeat the last tournament. But at the end, I think what finally did it for me, I think Hulk Hogan has the best fighting pose. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. And Kamala is almost identical to the Hogan, so that gave him a leg up. The one thing that I didn't like at first has really changed my opinion. So obviously I like the figures that have double closed hands for punching, but because he has that open hand, he does have his punch, but he also has the under chin chop, or throw an actual chop against the chest. That one extra fighting attribute, I think, is actually what put it over the top. Not the face paint, not the pose. I think it was just the fact that he had more, fighting techniques than Big John Studd. And as a figure, to have, different things that you could use for a kid for play purposes. This wasn't a wrong answer, but again, if Stud had won, that wouldn't have been a wrong answer either. This time around, Kamala does exact his revenge, and he does defeat Big John Studd, moving into the finals. This last matchup is going to feature Big Boss Man, a Series 6 original, against XOX Customs Sid Vicious. The Sid Vicious, which is also the greatest Random Treasures figure on their roster. Now, you do have Adrian. You still have Bruiser Brody left over. Man, was I seriously going to call this man Adrian Brody? Bruiser Brody left over. But as I mentioned in the last video, because that Bruiser Brody figure was my first tournament winner, that means because I have 5 figures, I'm going to give him an automatic free pass to the finals. And instead of having, a one-on-one battle here, I'm going to have one-on-one in the final match. So it gives three different wrestlers the opportunity to move forward. And you know what? I might choose to do differently. Because before I get to this matchup, I want to go back to Bruiser Brody for a moment. And I want to talk about Bruiser Brody real quick because I've said it before. No other figure in this entire tournament had to deal with what Bruiser Brody had to deal with. So, in round 1, Bruiser Brody defeated Kerry Von Erich. One of the most perfect custom, Texas tournament figures you'll ever find. And Kerry Von Erich was a round 5 figure in the first tournament, and being eliminated but in the first round, an absolute upset. In round 2, where am I at? Here we are. Where is it? Ah, here it is. In round 2, Bruiser Brody defeated Abdullah the Butcher. I'm not sure where Abdullah the Butcher rated last tournament. Second, maybe third rounder. And I think Bruiser Brody eliminated him in that round too, in that tournament as well. And again, Abdullah the Butcher on my top 10 list of greatest wrestling writer acquisitions. I think he was like number 6 or something. Absolute upset, phenomenal figure. Moving on to round 3. Alright, in round 3, Bruiser Brody defeated the Ultimate Warrior from Wrestling Rider. Again, that Ultimate Warrior, a third round elimination this time. In the very first tournament, that Ultimate Warrior from Wrestling Rider made it to the semifinals, where he was dispatched by Bruiser Brody. In the 4th round, Bruiser Brody defeated Mr. Perfect. I believe Mr. Perfect was either a 4th or a 5th round figure the first time I did this tournament. And then in round 5, Brody defeated from the Raider Nation, the 1-2-3 Kid. So he didn't have a single matchup that was easy. In fact, he dealt with some of the most elite figures of my entire roster here. So having him go through that many frontline wrestlers, frontline figures, and then of course, like I said, he was my tournament winner the first time. That automatically gave him a free pass into the finals. All right. Now, if the last battle wasn't hard, this one, if not as impossible. So I'm super glad I was able to see Big Boss Man make it to the semifinals. I believe he was a. I know in the first tournament he defeated Ultimate Warrior. In the first time I did this tournament, I put all the warriors together regardless of their fighting pose, and the Wrestling Rider warrior defeated all the others. And then in round 2 he dispatched Big Boss Man. So I've said it before. This Big Boss Man is among the most elite LJN original figures as you're going to find. It's got that bulkiness. It's got the perfect coloring. Great fighting pose. Just an overall phenomenal look. This is one of the most desirable figures for the semifinals. One of the most deserving figures for the semifinals. But he goes against an absolute perfect figure. And if Big Boss Man isn't an absolute figure, Sid Vicious truly is. And because I've had this figure, well, not had it, but because I had this LJ or Galoob version as a kid, and you know we always wrestled Galoob with Hasbro's and any other, I don't know, any other wrestler, any other monster, anything that we could use as wrestlers. This was always my favorite to work with because he always had that perfect pose. Good for body slamming, but also good to be body slammed. Everything from being able to throw that clothesline, to give him that perfect body slam pose, to set them up with a perfect power slam, and you could hook the leg for a pin. This figure did it all. I don't want to hurry up and say Sid Vicious is going to win because, again, you're talking about one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I absolutely loved the Big Boss Man as a kid. I only had his Series 1 Hasbro as a kid. I didn't have anything from Series 3, of course. And everything I've just mentioned, minus the legs being spread apart, this figure can do. And aesthetically, because he has so much more detail and coloring to the figure, it definitely gives him not just a leg up, but an astronomical leg up, where this figure is just relatively very simple and plain. In this case, who are you going to go with? Are you going to go with the Big Boss Man, a definite figure that deserves to be a finalist, or one of the newest LJNs to the collection? One that's been around for maybe 6 months, if that. I don't think I'm going to harp on this quite as long as I did for Kamala and Sid and the Big John Studd figure. I want to sit there and talk about this, but I think I'm going to go with Sid Vicious. And I feel like if I kept talking about it, eventually I might have talked myself out of it and gone with Big Boss Man. But Sid Vicious, this is the it figure for me. This is the one I wanted as much as any other figure that you could ever imagine. And when I started collecting LJNs and absolutely fell in love with the line, getting this figure in rubber form just makes the whole Galoob version all the more special. It was an impossible decision, but I have to go with history over a more, in my view, modern version because, again, you know, LJN for me is relatively new. I've only been having LJNs or knew about LJNs, been collecting LJNs for roughly, last 13 or 14 months. Sid Vicious, in his first tournament, goes to the final match. So, once again, that was round 6, the semifinals. I am going to continue on with the finals, round 7, in the same video. And it's literally an impossible choice. Absolute perfection all around. Anyone that watches these videos, it could be pretty much even across the board. 33, 33, 33, 33, 33, 34, however you want to say it. Maybe straight 33s and then one undecided. For this, there is no wrong answer. I rated Kamala as my 4th all-time favorite LJN original, but this could have easily been a number 1 figure when I did that video. He lost to Stud in the last tournament. Again, he could have easily won that. He could have easily moved to the finals and won the whole tournament. The figure that I have the most history with, and the one that I love as much as anything among any other figures, the Sid Vicious, which has always been, I've mentioned it a gazillion times, has always been my all-time favorite figure. And seeing him in the finals, it's so exceptionally special. And then we've got possibly the greatest custom figure of the entire collection. Not just, Wrestling Rider, who I got this from, but I'm talking, XOX Customs, Raider Nation, Robert Jackson, Sir Max-a-Lot, Move Over Swanson, basically anyone who I've ever bought a custom figure from. I think this is it. I think this is the bona fide number 1 pick among all custom figures. As many Stinger GQ phenomenal figure I got from him, I don't think any of my figures could really compare to this Bruiser Brody version. If I did have to pick between Big Boss Man and this Bruiser Brody, I think I may have chosen, well, no, I would have had to chosen Bruiser Brody. I still think overall detail, I like this one a little bit better. So now the question is, if I put him in round 6, would he have been able to do enough to defeat Sid Vicious in order to move to the finals, where he alone, as a lone custom facing the lone original? So we really haven't had much of an opportunity. Obviously, we discussed Sid Vicious, we discussed Kamala. We've talked about the battles that this figure had to go up against. And just because we're at about 27 minutes right now, I think this video will probably go 40 minutes. So if I do stage it out an extra 13 minutes, I'm interested just to see how these 3 figures got here. So, I know in round 1, Kamala took off against the original Hercules figure. So, I'm trying to see where Sid Vicious. Alright, Sid Vicious defeated Sting. A good figure, but I think very defeatable, especially when you're comparing it to a Sid Vicious. In round 2, Kamala defeated Ken Patera, and that was custom Ken Patera. A great figure from Wrestling Rider, but again, very defeatable when you compare it to the Kamala figure. And Sid Vicious defeated Animal. One of XOX Custom's best. Still a very defeatable figure. Oh, excuse me. In round 3, Kamala defeated the Mega Powers Elizabeth, which to me, that wasn't even a fair battle. And then Sid Vicious defeated Barry Windham. The Barry Windham from XOX Customs, the Galoop 2-Up. To me, that was a semi-finalist or even a finalist figure. That one was one of my favorites. And to lose that one in round 3 hurt. If it made it to like round 5, I would have been okay with that. Even excuse me, even an extra round to round 4 would have been good. So, between the battles between Kamala and Sid Vicious, the biggest obstacle I've seen so far is the Barry Windham. And then as we move to, where are we at, round 3. So as we began round 4, Kamala defeated custom Bret Hart from Wrestling Rider. Kamala defeated the custom Bret Hart in round 5 in the previous tournament. He defeated him in round 4 this time. I actually thought when I did the first tournament, I thought it was Bruiser Brody. Oh, man. Excuse me. I thought it was Bruiser Brody that eliminated Bret Hart. I honestly thought Bruiser Brody was like the only one capable of doing that. But going back and watching my whole videos and finding out that it was Kamala that took him out, it just shows you how much of a high esteem I place the Kamala figure. And then Sid Vicious defeated Zeus again, back-to-back rounds, knocking out two XOX Customs greats and Barry Windham and Zeus. Definitely a highlight figure. And then, so that was round 4. Round 5, Kamala defeated SD Jones, a frontline contender, absolutely. And Sid Vicious defeated the Honky Tonk Man custom. So I think that the Honky Tonk Man from the Raider Nation, again, probably my favorite figure from them. But I don't know if that was necessarily, a major or serious competitor for the finals. Definitely felt like it was a figure that was capable of going 4 or 5 rounds or more, but I don't think it necessarily would have won this competition. At least going against the 3 guys I have remaining, or even the last 2 that were eliminated, I don't think he would have defeated any of these figures. Nope, I'm positive he wouldn't have defeated any of these figures. So again, going off the list earlier, talk about Bruiser Brody's battles, and then dealing with the other 2 guys. Kamala had a couple really tough competitors. Sid Vicious had a couple really tough competitors. Bruiser Brody had 4 of possibly the most elite figures, and he had to square off against. Let's see, what was 5? So 5 rounds, 5 elite figures he had to vanquish. So right now, just kind of talking about that, just seeing who they had to defeat. Bruiser Brody is a frontline figure for me right now. And do I like him better, though? It was enough for him to defeat Big John Studd in the previous tournament. At the end of the day, I just can't do it. I don't know if I could pull the trigger and eliminate my favorite figure. Now, when I did this tournament, it was always talking about you're not supposed to take put your emotions into it. You're not supposed to, it's not supposed to be, well, this is my favorite wrestler, or this is my, favorite, in this case, my favorite action figure from Galoob. This isn't Galoob. This is LJN. So, yes, it's a 2-up, got it, but you got to take other things into consideration. Starting with pose, all 3 of them have that. Starting with this, next you go with the design. This is the highlight figure for me. And right now, I think I made my choice, at least between these 2. I really love the Kamala figure. I just don't know if he's a better version, a better complement for the official one-on-one final matchup between Bruiser Brody. Because I think you got to have Bruiser Brody at least standing tall right now to go up against one of these 2 fellas. I am selecting Kamala. Again, this has always been my most perfect figure. Absolutely love it. But in this particular LJN tournament, Kamala just has so much more to offer as far as design, which really puts him over the top. A great Hulk Hogan-esque fighting pose, which is, again, a little bit better than the Big John Studd / Sid Vicious type pose. And, again, like the way he defeated Big John Studd, he does have a little bit more to offer as far as fighting attributes. So, the official one-on-one final match is technically Bruiser Brody against Kamala. We've said so much about both figures. If Kamala was good enough, in my opinion, this time to finally dethrone Big John Studd, in the first tournament, I was originally going to select Big John Studd to move forward or to be crowned champion. But kind of like at the last moment, I talked myself out of it and ended up going with Bruiser Brody as my champion. So if Studd was good enough to win that tournament, it only makes sense that Kamala is good enough to win this tournament. 2 perfect figures. It's exactly what it should be. It should be original against custom and having a final victor. Now, it could have been custom on custom. It could have been Original on original. It didn't have to play out this way, but it's just great that it did. It's a tough call. I think it's only fair, guys. Bruiser Brody once more is going to win the My Favorite LJN tournament. So we can add Kamala for round 7, if you want to call it that way. We could say he eliminated Sid Vicious for round 6, even though that technically that's not how it played out. At the end of the day, 7 rounds, 7 figures, all removed from competition by Bruiser Brody. I just love this figure. And I've said it before, and I'll probably keep saying it every time I talk about him. He was, at one point before I acquired that original San Francisco Blue Trunk Ric Flair, this was the most money I ever paid for an action figure. Is that the reason why he was my favorite? No, of course not. But it just shows you how much of an affection I had for it. And all I did was see it on eBay, under Wrestling Writers listings, and he let me know that, hey, he just listed a new figure. Saw it, looked at it for a little bit, a few moments. A few moments later, bam, I was purchasing him. And among this collection, probably the most elite figure of the entire collection. And again, there really isn't anything about this figure that doesn't work. He has an accessory, bam, knock that off. Fighting pose, Greg Valentine-esque, one of the most perfect fighting poses, bam, knock that off. Face mold to look like the actual wrestler with a great head sculpt, with including face and hair, perfect. Boots, which I love, trunks and vest, which match up, and it's not just a paint on, it's an actual vest you built on there, and even throwing a championship belt as well. There is absolutely nothing not to love about the Bruiser Brody figure. He deserved everything he got in the first tournament to win that tournament. He deserved everything possible. I think even more so this time around, because this time around I don't think he had, like I said, he didn't have a single matchup that wasn't a flyby matchup. Like I said, Big John Studd in round 1, taking on Hillbilly Jim. I like the Hillbilly Jim figure. It's not a round 2 figure. And if he did make it to round 2, he definitely could have gone to round 3, 4, 5, etc. We're talking about him removing the most elite figures of my entire collection, one after the other. Absolutely love the Bruiser Brody figure. And I'm dying to hear what you guys all think and have to say about this. Hopefully you all agree with me, and kind of knocking off those. I think going back and reading off the names that he eliminated, I think that right there also really had to play a major role. Thinking there's no other choice in my opinion. I think this was a fair selection, and an honest one, clearly. Bruiser Brody custom version from Wrestling Writer, my all-time favorite LJN figure, regardless of custom or originality. To Eric Boyer, if you guys are interested, always, give him props because his figures are always top notch. So sad to conclude this tournament, but it was a long one, and I absolutely love doing this, guys. I've said several videos ago, I was actually looking forward to doing this tournament again for a third time. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know, even if I end up with, if I do this 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road, and I end up with 10 more figures, 100 more figures, would any of those at any point usurp the Bruiser Brody figure as my all-time favorite? Do you know how physically impossible or how absolutely amazing the figure would have to be in order to do so. I don't know. It's just a tough call, but that Big John Studd Kamala battle, I was seriously thinking Kamala was gonna be going home after that sixth round, and to actually push it forward. Any of these guys could go on anyway. Any one of these five figures towards the end deserve to win. But yeah. Well, that's it, everyone. Once again, today's Sunday, October 16th, and I just filmed the final video, final matchup of the LJN tournament revisited. So, again, by the time I post this video, it's not going to matter to anybody because, again, this is going to be the last of it. But I'm dying to get all these videos uploaded, and I just want to go and watch these all on the big screen, you know. And I don't know, so I really don't want to wait every 3 days because, like I said, that's going to take me to like December, maybe even into January, before I finally post this last video, and I don't want that to happen. I really want to post a new video every single day and get this done in like a couple of weeks. Well, about 3.5 weeks. I think, what was this, the 25th video? Yeah, video 25. And that's another interesting thing because the first tournament was 26 videos, and I only had about 132 figures. This time I had somewhere around 200. Again, I didn't count. And I had one video less. But given, the first time I was all about 5 matchups per video, where this time I was doing 7, 8 matchups per video on a consistent basis. So, yes, I had more figures, but I also had more matchups per video. So it took that 20, 30-minute video, or sometimes between 15 to 30-minute video, and basically have all these 40-minute videos. But this one was a fun one. Sad one, but it was fun nonetheless. Alright, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching and, your continued support. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. I guess I'll go back to comparable LJNs or maybe some Q&As here and there. But, you guys have questions, definitely, send them up. Love to hear from you, and maybe I can include them in a new Q&A session. But as of right now, I'm not. The goal is not to put any other videos in between. Again, what I'm saying right now doesn't make sense. I'm not going to edit it out though, because this is going to be the last video. So you guys will know better whether or not there's any new videos intermingling with this tournament. So far, after the first 2 videos I had one video, and that was like the review of what was it? The Wave 2 of the Mattel Retros. But everything else is going to be in order of just the tournament matches. Alright, everybody, again, thank you, and I'm calling it a night. Goodbye, everyone.